People, welcome back to Premier League Unpacked, episode 57. And as you can see, there's a high tone in my voice because we finally beat Manchester City. But big up the cut, big up everybody, Guna Lee. We got Bish in there. You get me, first time he's tasted defeat. Well, actually, you know what? We got words to have with you as well. Yeah, definitely, because there's a few comments you threw about. But big up yourself anyhow.
I'm
Big
here.
up
I'm here
Roms.
for it.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
I'm ready for the smoke. You guys deserve it. Go on.
Say no more. But look, we're going to obviously touch on the Arsenal result. We will touch on Liverpool, touch on Manchester United saving their blushes as well. And I think it's only right that we have to touch on Spurs as well, top of the tree.
100%.
Obviously, I don't know how this is working out, Guna, because we start with yeah, the goal difference is the same thing. Yeah, we're on the same points, and I don't like City. I don't like City second.
Now they scored more goals, man. They scored more goals than us, I think, innit? So.
Say no more. But look, we are going to come to Lee first. I'm going to be 110% honest because that's what I am like. I had a baby shower yesterday, so I couldn't get to the game or I couldn't really watch it in depth. So I'm going to have to rely on my boy Guna Lee to give me his full rundown. Obviously, we don't always normally agree on everything, but today we're going to be agreeing 100%.
Yeah,
you get me? So I got to go with it. But go on, Lee, man. How did you see it?
Listen, firstly, shout out to that little intro. I'm seeing leveling up, man. Leveling up, man.
Yes.
So I'm liking it still. But nah, do you know what? I'll be real. Like, I feel like a lot of people are gonna want me to come in on there and be shameless and etc. etc. But for me, look, Man City are gonna be fine. So I think that's the first thing I'm gonna say. That I don't think this is the day where we have to kill Man City and make it seem like Man City are in the dumps because they're not. But I think for me, look, the most important thing that I took out from it and I loved was the hard work, the passion, and the desire to win that game. And I think that's the first time in a very long time that I think you can say that for Arsenal for Man City, against Man City. Mm-hmm. I think that's the first time where you can leave a game and you're like, you know what? Man City have been outworked. They've been out hustled. They've been, the determination for the other team's been there. I know Wolves, again, you can probably label that, but I saw something different. And I think with the Wolves thing, they had their strongest team out. We didn't. So we had to do something different. And I think the first half, well, I mean, the quality of the game was poor. I think the quality of the game was poor overall, but I do think it was because we were quite nervous. I think both teams were quite nervous and tactical with how we were trying to play. I thought there were some real standouts, and it's a shame actually, Premsy, that you didn't watch the game. Hopefully you do get a chance to watch it because there were some players on that pitch that I know you would be proud of. And I don't even say that in a jokingly way. And I mean players like Saliba. He was absolutely excellent. I think players like, Partey came in for 20 minutes and I just felt like assured. I thought Declan
Rice. Come on, talk about it.
I don't know what more I can talk about this guy. And I think my last one, my man of the match was Jesus. Jesus was, he showed me something and he moved me in a nice way, man. And I think what I liked about that performance was he went up against a guy who cost £100 million, who everyone's talking about is the best centre-back in the world, or under 23 centre-back, apologies. And he showed him, not that it's levels, because I thought like there was a good matchup, but Jesus showed that he is well adapted to be part of this team. And, he can be a player that, again, he doesn't have to be the main number 9, but he can just do so many different things. And he's just, dynamism is so good. So
is that his third game in a week where he's played 90 minutes as well?
No, he didn't play 90 minutes against. Hold on, we played Boom.
I think he said that in his post-match.
Yeah, no, it was.
He's played 3 full 90-minute games. So when that speaks to his fitness and where he's at, and
he's
being able to actually rely on him, which is going to be big for us. So.
Yeah, man. Look, like I think the tactical flexibility that we had. I think Arteta, the way he set up the game before the game, I looked at our team, the lineup, and I was like, we're going to lose. I said 4-0. I actually said we're going to lose 4-0. And yeah, man, look, I was very, very proud of the boys. And it's nice to go beat PSV 4-0. It's nice to, beat Spurs last season, etc., and beat all of these teams that we do. And the 1-0s, but it was a different kind of 1-0. And I think it wasn't even a backs against the wall. I was funny enough, I can't even say I was disappointed with Man City because I think we made you look quite poor. I think that's how well we played. And I think the way that we marshaled Haaland, and again, there's been so much madness about he's this and that online. I'm just like, come on, like let's be serious. The guy's a quality player, but we just did excellently well. And I can't say no more. I'm proud,
Do you
man.
know what though, Guna? Let me ask you a few questions on it though, because obviously I didn't watch the full game. I have watched highlights and bits and bobs and the Kovacic yellow cards and so on. But when I looked at that starting lineup, because throughout I was always checking and seeing what I go on with the team. When I looked at that lineup, I was a bit like you. I was thinking, right, Eddie and Nketiah starting, Jorginho in the middle, like no Saka. This is looking like a bit of a fuckery thing. This might be damage limitation here. But then at the same time, I looked over at City's team and I seen a few players out, seen Rico Lewis in midfield. I thought, right, okay, looks like both of them are going a little bit different here. What was Jorginho like? What was Eddie Nketiah like? What was your boy Raya like? And I want to know what Havertz was like when he came on.
So
Few
yeah,
players there.
I think right. If I start from the back and work forward, I think Raya was first half. He was shaky, man. And listen, I keep saying it. I don't think Raya's that good. I don't see what the hype is about him. But there were comments made after the game from Arteta, which I'm sure we'll get into, where he was kind of really mentioning the whole, I need this guy to do what I'm asking him to do, and he's doing it. So the passing out from the back, because in the first 5 minutes, I think Man City should have scored. Ake for sure should have scored. You know, he had an open goal and he kind of skied it over the bar. But you know, I think it's clear what Arteta's asking him to do. Do not kick that ball long. Play out from the back. If you kick the ball long, you're definitely getting dropped. And what I mean by kicking it long aimlessly, because there were 3 passes in the first half that he was trying to make long and it just wasn't reaching the target. It was reminiscent of the game that we played against Spurs, where his kicking was really poor. But overall,
man are saying Almunia vibes. Is it that bad, fam?
Nah, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad, but it was very shaky. He was very nervous with what he was doing. But I think again, he has been told, you must do what I'm asking you to do, otherwise you're going to be dropped. And the comments Arteta made after guaranteed that basically Ramsdale's getting sold, because he basically said in so many words, Ramsdale's basically not been following my instructions. That's why he's dropped, and he's not going to be my number one. That's what I took from it. But yeah, so I think Ramsdale Raya first half was really poor, but second half I think he was a lot better. But again, he didn't have to do as much because Man City didn't really have that attack or that threat. I think
his distribution looked okay though, didn't it?
Yeah,
especially near the end of the game.
Yeah,
he was releasing a lot of pressure with some of them long balls that I'm not sure that Ramsdale can play.
Yeah, definitely. I
think
Jorginho first half again, he was okay. What I liked about, he got a yellow card in maybe like the 20th minute. He pulled back. I'm gonna say Foden. I think he pulled back Foden on the left hand side, and I was again worried because I thought, it's going to lead to him possibly making a few, silly mistakes and stuff like that. And you know what? The thing I liked about him, his maturity in the game to make sure that he didn't get himself in any dramas. His positioning was really, really good. Trying to pass out from the ball, working hard, to win the ball back as well, which I really, really liked off of the players like Bernardo Silva, who was playing in that 6th row, which I found quite weird, and then Rico Lewis as well, which he was on the periphery on the game. But yeah, for me, I think Jorginho was okay. I think he came off at the right time. I think he came off at the 70th minute. He worked really hard. But I think Nketiah, bro, listen, I've said it to you. I don't know what more you want me to say, bro. He's not good enough. You were right. I was wrong. I can't back this guy. I can't pretend that this guy wasn't shamelessly bad. He was poor against Spurs. He was absolutely woeful yesterday. He did absolutely nothing for the whole game. There was a point in the match where he tackled Odegaard when he was in the box by accident. Like, he's just not good. He had a shot in the first half, which I thought was close, and he actually went closer to the bloody corner flag than actually the goal. Like, he was just poor, man. Everything about him was poor. He can't hold the ball up. He can't link. And you know what? Why I even give more credit to the likes of Jesus is because he was playing with a guy up front who was absolutely terrible. So much so, Havertz came on and was more effective in 10 minutes than what Nketiah was for the whole game. So, yeah, listen, I think when you look at those 3 players that you asked me and you signaled out, I think those were some really good performances and some that were shaky. But I think, again, I didn't even mention Martinelli. Like, I don't know what Bish thinks. I don't know what Roms thinks. But I think in that second half, as soon as he came on, he's just electric. And all day I've been seeing online, I've been seeing on a couple of videos, who's the better player, Saka, Martinelli. You know, the great thing is I don't have to think about it because they both play for my club. They both play for my club. And it's almost a bit like when Man City had Sane, Sterling. They're arguing about who the better player is, bro.
We used to have that problem as well.
The biggest one. You did it. I literally about to say, who's the better one? Sane, Mane, sorry, or Salah. You ain't got to worry about that because you had them for 4 or 5 years and they were excellent. Or who's more important? Firmino. Like, you've got all of them. Just be happy. So for me, listen, man, Martinelli, he came on. He was driving at the left at Walker. He didn't get as much change out of him, but he's just a nuisance. Like, there was a point where he was dribbling down the left-hand side. He cuts back. He's nuts. I think he put the ball through Bernardo Silva's legs, whips the ball in. Like, he's just
Can I just chime in quickly on Martinelli? Do you know what I was so impressed with? His intelligence. Because let's be honest, no left winger is beating Kyle Walker for pace. So he realized, you know what? I can't go on the outside. He kept coming in that inside, and Kyle Walker, there was a point he didn't know really what to do. He's like, you know what? This guy's not trying to beat me on the outside, but he's getting so much success in the inside. So you have to big up Martinelli for that. Sorry, I just wanted to say that.
Well, and that was kind of what created the space for Tomiyasu on the goal because he pulled Walker out of position uncharacteristically for Walker. All of a sudden, Tomiyasu, and also props to Tomiyasu for being aware and seeing this all happening and taking the gamble, because when I first seen him head it down, I'm thinking, why? How is Tomiyasu suddenly just turned up on the edge of the box from another long ball from Arsenal? But it wasn't long. I don't mean long ball like Sam Allardyce long ball. It was a very deliberate tactic of knowing when to go and stretching the play quickly. That's why the likes of Jorginho as well looked kind of okay, because they was spraying the ball and opening it up and stretching City into weird places. Go on, sorry.
Do you know what? Like, the only thing my last thing I'm going to say is everybody keeps saying, but we won on the deflected goal. But we have to make our own luck. Like, you shoot and you score. Like, it doesn't matter how we scored.
You have to. Lee, this is what I'm saying all the time. If you don't fucking shoot, you don't score, mate. You get me? And that's something Arsenal fuck around with all the time. You never shoot.
Too much, man. And I think it was just nice to see that, you know what? Finally, we got the rub of the green. And you know what? Man City should have had I think 2 men sent off. I'm sorry. I think Bernardo Silva, you should have been sent off. That was a nasty tackle on who was it? I don't know. It wasn't Odegaard, but it was someone else. And then obviously we've all seen Kovacic. Like, his first tackle was enough to be sent off. His second tackle was definitely another yellow. So even on that premise, I think you should have had 2 players sent off. And that's
I think that's pushing it. I think we should have had one man. I think Kovacic should have gone for 2 yellows. I don't think
Bernardo. I think Bernardo.
The Bernardo Silva one, right?
It's a yellow.
My thing is, right, again, I'm only going off the rules today. So if I'm going off the rules today, I could see that being sent off. Being sent off. The Kovacic one, first one, that should have been a straight red.
I think part of what. Nah, it wasn't though, because he was playing the ball and he was coming.
But Bish. My thing is what I was trying to explain to people. Now in football, you can't tackle.
It was rash though. It was rash. It was rash.
Okay. Bish. Can I just ask you just one question?
Go on, land. Yeah.
Was that tackle worse than Jota's tackle?
Just about.
Not Jota, sorry, not Jota's. Curtis Jones. Not even Jota's. Was it worse than Curtis Jones's tackle? But
I didn't think that was a red either, though. So that's not getting me.
That's what I'm saying.
You're being consistent.
You know what I mean?
I'm saying that's not getting the juices flowing.
I'm gonna.
Yeah,
probably. I'm going to agree with you. I don't.
Wait, are you speaking the Kovacic one or the Bernardo Silva one? The Kovacic one was more of a red. Yeah.
Okay, so
the Kovacic one, to be fair, I feel like the weird thing about that is that I feel like that would have been a red a couple of years back. I actually feel like, in a way, we've moved backwards on that one.
That's my point. Have you done? If you seen the Costa one, got into his ankle. He got sent off, and I'm just like, well, hold on. In today's game, that is more of an obvious red than all done one.
Do you know what? You know what I do think part of it was, though? I think the ref was aware of the level of competition and how well matched the two teams were, and how. Yes, brother, are you okay?
Yes. And how tight it was. Just quickly, Bishop, just introduce Martin. Sorry to interrupt you. Everybody, we got a new guest on the show, Martin from Mancunian Way. Brilliant, you get me? I did a preview for the Arsenal game with him over on his channel. And honestly, Big Steve recommended him, and he did not disappoint. So I thought it's only right to give Bish some backup for once. You get me? Bish has never had no backup on this show.
These guys picked the day to get on the City
guys. You know
is that a good or a bad thing Steve's recommended?
I know.
Hey, well, he recommended you, and you're coming on now. You just lost, so I don't know. You're gonna have to tell me. But I just wanted to welcome you to the
dirty
show.
work, man. He sent you to do the dirty work, innit?
Yeah, man.
Yes,
I just wanted to
definitely.
welcome you to the show, people. His link is in the description below. Make sure you go on and subscribe to Mancunian Way, just like all the rest of the guys as well. But we are going to now obviously get Bish's thoughts on the City game, and we'll get Martin's. And then I do want to move to Rom's last, because off air, Rom said something to me. Yeah, and I think it's a valid point that we're going to have to talk on with the Arsenal. But Bish, man, obviously you've heard Doonally. Give us your account of the game, man.
I mean, first of all, congratulations to Arsenal. I think that it was one of them games where if that goal doesn't go in and it finishes 0-0, we kind of look at it as, it was probably a fair result. We were both quite well matched. We kind of cancelled each other out. I do think Arsenal were probably just about the better team. I think statistically it showed that as well in terms of just the shots you guys had and the shots on target. That's the lowest amount of shots on target we've had in the whole time Pep's been manager since he came to City. So that obviously speaks volumes to the defensive performance of Arsenal. But I think both teams actually defended really well. I thought, I know Lee said that he felt like Rico Lewis was a bit on the peripheries. I thought Rico Lewis actually played really well in that position in such a big game for his age. And I think if we end up drawing, we would have felt maybe more positively about some of the defensive players and the performances on City side of the ball. But we didn't do enough going forwards. We looked a bit disjointed. Arsenal were up for it. And it's a deflected goal, but it was that the game was going to have to be won by a fine margin like that, because we were kind of cancelling each other out a little bit. I agree with you that I think Kovacic should have been sent off. I think it should have been 2 yellows. I don't think the first one was a straight red, and I don't think the Bernardo Silva one was a red. And man, good for you. I don't think it's a major turning point in City season. Obviously, we've had a challenging week or so, and losing 3 on the bounce, especially after I came in here saying I wanted to put money on us to go unbeaten. It's humble pie today, but I don't think this isn't making me reach for the alarm bells or feel like we can't go on and do special things again this year. So we just need to get Andrew back. I think we just need to catch a little bit more of a run of form. And
you know what, though,
okay.
I wanted to ask both the Man City fans, because you know what, a lot of people have been speaking about Haaland, and you know, he scored 56 goals or 52 goals last season, and there's been a lot of chat about should he win the Ballon d'Or, because all he does is score goals. Now, look, goals are currency. We know that goals win you the major trophies, but
trebles.
Yesterday, I don't know if you can see now why people kind of do question him, where look, he gets goals, but he doesn't really offer as much as a Firmino, like a Jesus, where he's not involved in the game. He's a low touch player, and I think when you look at someone like that, did he do enough? Could he have affected the game in another way? And you think about it. My only thing, again, just because I wanted you guys to kind of chop it up.
Yeah,
he's meant to be one of your star players, but he didn't step up. He really didn't step up yesterday, and you wanted him to step up. You wanted Foden to step up, and they didn't. So, kind of, what do you think about that?
I would just say quickly, I think that it's misleading, the comparison with him and Firmino, because with Haaland, one of the ways that he affects the game outside of scoring goals is that his presence alone and how much of a threat he is shapes the pitch in totally different ways. And that was outside of just the goals he scored. That was one of the reasons we was able to win the treble last year. It wasn't just that goals win you trophies, it's goals win you trebles and historic seasons. So for me, even if it was just goals and was just that presence that's creating space for other players and allowing us to achieve things like that, I think that's more than enough to win the Ballon d'Or. And I think that if it's not a City player that gets the Ballon d'Or this year, then I don't know how I'm going to feel about that.
I'll be honest,
going forward.
When I look at the Ballon d'Or, I think of the face of football. I can't live in a world where Haaland wins the Ballon d'Or. I personally, that's not hating.
How?
Because
how is that not hating?
Because
if this was Arsenal, you would want whoever. But no. Arsenal player is the. Go on.
Maybe so from a purely biased point of view. But if I take my football hat or put my football hat on, I want to see somebody who creative, inventive, is involved with everything. He's just a genius, and I don't know how much of a genius he is in compared to Messi. That's not to take away from.
Yeah, but Ronaldo won it plenty of times. Just getting goals.
Again, with Ronaldo, because he played on the left, I do think again he was involved with the game a little bit more. He did a little bit more. And listen, we're splitting hairs here. I'm not saying he's shit.
So who do you think should get the Ballon d'Or if not?
You know what it is?
De Bruyne.
I think for me, Messi.
Quickly on this topic.
Messi? Did you say Messi?
Quickly on this topic.
He's in Miami. What are we?
Doesn't matter.
Do you know what it is? Do you know what
yeah,
it is?
American Ballon d'Or. You mean you're talking about the Super Bowl, innit?
Let Roms land on his question because
do you know what it is about the Ballon d'Or? Yeah, not even to divert too much. The thing with Messi and Haaland, the reason why I think this is actually going to be 50-50 this year, because with the new rules, they do it by the campaign. Now, if we're going to do it by the campaign, Haaland's got all 3 trophies. But then we all know how this Ballon d'Or goes, yeah? Normally the World Cup winner, bar the Messi and Ronaldo era, wins the Ballon d'Or. And the amount of weight that World Cup holds, and it's not even just that Messi won it. He scored or assisted in every game. He was a main contributor. It wasn't like Cannavaro in 06 where he was immense, but he's a defender. Messi was actually the reason why they won in each of those games. So with me, when someone asks who do you think deserves to win the Ballon d'Or, I wouldn't mind either or, because either or warrant winning the Ballon d'Or. And I think it's going to be a toss-up between two, but I can hear sides for either or. Honestly, I can hear sides for either or.
Go on, my brother. I want to hear your thoughts on
I don't think you can rule out Alvarez then. Alvarez has won every single competition.
Yeah,
and won the World Cup.
Played every massive part in the World Cup squad as well with Messi. So how Alvarez is not in that conversation is also beyond me. I don't think Messi should even be anywhere near the conversation because he was a complete and utter flop at PSG.
But he won the league, he won the World Cup, and then you put into the other characteristics. He scored 56 goals or whatever it was. I don't know if he scored in the quarterfinals for Man City in the Champions League. I don't know if he didn't score in the final for the FA Cup, I don't believe. He didn't score in the semi-final for the Champions League, and he didn't score in the final for the Champions League. So all of those goals he contributed were fantastic. He killed the league. He killed the Premier League, the hardest league in the world. But when we're looking at the definitive moments, he was almost, you could say, in some regard, on paper, nowhere to be seen.
That's misleading, though. I was at the Champions League final. His presence and his role in the final was a huge part of why we won.
Bish, what you're doing is using correct logic, which I'm not disagreeing with. I understand your point. But I'm not saying that he doesn't.
You're talking about like the big moments in the big games
I'm not saying,
this year.
And again, I'm a little bit more like Roms in the sense of I can understand if you want it, but I just wouldn't feel right if he did win it over Messi, because you're correct. If we're going off a season where he's now into Miami, I agree that's not the league to talk about. But I'm talking about going off, for example, yesterday's game. Can you see why people sometimes do question him? Because yes, his presence, but unfortunately, that's just going back to like Van Dijk with the whole aura thing. Like, we have to do more than just presence. We have to see what you're doing on the pitch. And unfortunately, or fortunately, those goals may not allow him to be covered as the best player for the year. And I just feel like that's a conversation to be had.
Can I just say something before we bring Martin in? Yeah, I just say fuck the Ballon d'Or, because in 2003, 2004, Henry
should have been Henry.
I'm telling you now, 41 goals, 35 assists, you get 61 games. Are you having a fucking laugh? So I'm not even looking at them. It's corrupt. People are corrupt. That's just the truth.
But anyway, I'm sure. Back to the game.
Getting looked into being off referees. You get me? I think we would have went further in the Champions League as well if Van Persie didn't get sent off when we were winning for kicking the ball. Yeah, when everyone a million people were whistling, mad things. Fuck all of that. But look, Martin, let's get your views on the game, because some City fans might feel it's a disaster because they probably haven't seen you lose 2 games in a bounce or 3 games in 4. Obviously, I think most City fans will just know that losing Rodri in certain games is a massive loss. But how did you see the game? Because me and you were speaking before the game, and you were quite confident that you will just edge it 2-1, I believe you said in the preview. Yeah. How did you see the game, man?
Thought it was the worst game I've seen in about 5 years. If I was a neutral on that game, I'd have turned it off after 60 minutes. Pep Guardiola did something yesterday I never, ever thought I'd ever see him do. He went to play for the draw. And that is so unlike Pep Guardiola. He's never done that. Never. It was like, I'm gonna solve the Rodri conundrum by packing our midfield so much, making them so narrow The biggest shock was there was no Jack or Doku yesterday. Normally, we're arguing beforehand about A or B. There's neither of them. And from what I heard, the whole squad were shocked there was no Jack or Doku in there. And then you had Alvarez, who's been this 10 all season, getting used to the role. And I've been one of Alvarez's biggest critics in the number 10. But you then throw him to the right. You then, Foden at the moment hasn't got a definite position, which he needs to get this position sorted out. He needs to have a bit of 10 or on the wing. They're doing this hybrid Foden stuff too much, and it's destroying him. You can see it's destroying him because he doesn't know whether he's coming or going anymore. And yesterday was just so weird. And yes, Kovacic, personally, I respect everyone's opinions. That was a red, the first one. You can't say the Chelsea one and the Liverpool one last week were reds, and then that Kovacic first one wasn't a red. And that's part of the problem. There's no consistency within the refereeing. Thought Bernardo's was a naughty one.
Thank you.
That went a little bit over the... It got shone out by a lot, but trouble is Bernardo isn't a 6.
But
this is what I mean. We went there with
the Bernardo one was a red card. Did you think it was a red card? The Bernardo one?
It was more of an orange. Neville, like it was like an in between one, but it was somewhat. When you watch,
Guy said it was an orange.
Orange is closer to reds.
When you watch it back a second time, it looked worse. It looked a lot worse, and you think, "Fuck me, what are you doing?" I did it with Kovacic. I was tweeting out, "Do not bring Kovacic on in the second half." Pep stuck with him. Fine. Walker gave him an absolute roasting on the quiet. Said, don't do that. You've got to be a bit more, street smart. Kovacic, but what we've not got to do is throw the baby out with the bathwater and make Kovacic, a crap player. No, he's coming back from injury and he's had a poor 2 games. That's fine. We're 8 games in. We're 2 points off after 8 games. We were 10 points off in February last year and we won the league. We took our foot off the gas, could have been 10. I'm not saying we'll do that again, but John Stones came back yesterday. That was a big plus because he will fill that role when Rodri is not there. I thought Rico Lewis did all right yesterday, was a bit shocked when he came off, but it was going to be a goal that was scored, and Martinelli scored the goal, give him his due. That was the kind of goal that was going to have to win it because nobody was giving away anything. I thought Diaz... worst performance I've seen in about a year and a half off him.
Yeah,
Diaz just looked all over the shop. He was trying to do... John Stones last season was doing this inverted role, but coming late into the box and giving out 20-yard passes. John Stones can do it because he's a Rolls Royce of a player. Diaz cannot do it. Don't want to see Diaz trying to feed forward in 20-yard balls over the top because they were going out for throw-ins and dead balls. Don't want to see it. Be a defender. Kyle Walker, it sounds like I'm having a moan, I'm not, but it tells you how weird we were. It was like Pep's biggest issue is Pep. He comes up with these really weird Frankenstein moments. It's like he sat there in his white coat doing some weird experiments. And that was the case yesterday. It was Rodri's not there. How am I going to do it? Tell you what, I'll make us as narrow as we possibly can. I mean, I love Doku. I think Doku's amazing. But you saw the Doku effect. And it was said before, comes on, does 6 or 7 step overs, and Zinchenko goes, thanks, I'll have that. So we switch him over to the left, Ben White does the exact same thing. There's got to be... It's like we've come away from last season's treble-winning ball playing, and because we've got Doku, we're in this... I'm calling it a hybrid at the minute of control and directness. And Pep doesn't know whether to stick or twist on either of it. So it's really weird. We've got to make...
I think he's experimenting too much. I think he's experimenting too much with the team.
Yesterday was just prime Pep Guardiola. You know, he's an absolute genius, best manager in world football for me. But yesterday was... And don't get me wrong, and big up, you got the win and you deserve it, just... But if that had ended 0-0, none of us would have sat here really and gone, you know what, that's not a fair, not a fair result.
Yeah, I think if we didn't win, the red card decisions would have...
Yeah, you'd have made more of it. But it was a poor game. That was not a Premier League. Look at what the Premier League brings us.
The top dogs in the Premier League.
on our preview. Do you remember when I said it was a must-not-lose game for either team?
Yeah.
That's how both set up.
Do you think it was a
Not
foul
lose.
in the run-up to their goal? That header that they won at the very start of that passage of play? I know it sounds like clutching at straw, but for me, that was a foul, and it's frustrating.
Yes, Fish.
Listen, if this was Arsenal, you would have been telling me about 17 minutes earlier.
Not me. I would have said we were shit. That's what I would have said.
No,
the thing is as well, right? I don't think Man City would they weren't great, but like I do think like firstly nervousness came into it. I do think we both were so good tactically because there weren't many chances. So I think we were so good tactically that it kind of did make for a boring game. And I also think logic says you're missing both teams are missing some of our better players. So you're obviously the level is going to drop. That wasn't a Liverpool Man City from 3 years ago where it was like frantic end-to-end basketball shit. That was a very, very tactile, trying to create openings, trying to create space. And it was a very, very high thought out game from a tactical side of it. Now, as I said, if you're thinking that it was going to be a Liverpool Man City game, it was never going to be that because we didn't have the players. And ultimately, these managers overthink everything. Like they probably were tossing and turning for days, probably thinking about that. So yeah, like it's a bit different.
Can I just jump in on that point?
There's this notion that, and you even said it, Martin, that this game was boring. But I said straight away, that's testament to Arsenal and City. They're the two best teams in the country at the moment. It showed the respect you have for one another because Bish and Martin, you would know when City and Liverpool used to go at it, yeah, there were goals. I think going on to what Guna just said, there were more goals in the game, but I think because the quality was a bit higher. But in terms of yesterday, I just think, like you said, Martin, City or Arsenal, Pep and Arteta, both of them just did not want to lose that game. And I think you're spot on, Martin. The way I saw it is, it was a bit alien. Pep played for that draw. He said, you know what? Coming away with a draw isn't the worst thing. And it backfired because I agree with what Gundy said. I don't think City were as bad as what people are saying. I think defensively, you were still fine. For me, it was offensively because I was speaking to LB earlier, big up LB, and he said something that I've been saying. I rate Bernardo highly, but he's not this mad creator that everyone thinks. So when he was getting into them pockets, I knew he wouldn't produce that much. There's been a few times on the right-hand side in a few of your games where Bernardo will do his thing, but I looked at that City team, both lineups, I said, obviously it's not the strongest for each team, but I was like, there's not going to be that much creativeness from the City side. I just kind of knew it would be the case, and I think it would have had to be a smash and grab if you're going to win that game. But I do want to give props to Rico Lewis because, yes, he wouldn't have been the first name on the team sheet if everyone's fit. But I think for an 18-year-old to go to the Emirates and put in that performance
in defensive midfield.
Say that
This guy came in at right back about 6 months ago, and now he's playing centre defensive midfield / hybrid, whatever weird positions they want you to play as, like a defensive mid in the City team at 18.
By the way, he's even skipped a generation because he played one game in the EDS. He went straight from under 17 straight under 19s and went straight into.
No one thing I'll say, Martin and Bish though. When Pep was he's the best young player I've coached in that. Didn't you say the same about Foden?
No, but the thing with Foden is they've got to find a spot for him. This is the thing with Foden, he's on record as saying, I don't want to be a winger. He doesn't want to be a winger. He wants to be
a number 10 for me.
A 10. He wants to be the 10. Now, the problem is, he's put Alvarez there. That's fine. But then you're doing that. And then yesterday, he swapped him. And you're like, what? Where's that? And it even confused Alvarez yesterday, probably. But I mean, just to piggyback on that conversation before, the one thing I will give Arsenal their due for was last season, it was all about sexy football. Look how we're playing great, this, that, and the other. They got beat by doing that. Yesterday showed a little bit of, we've learned a little bit of maturity. We talked about how young this Arsenal team is. I will give them the due is that's how you win a league is by playing ugly-looking football. Now, that is the one thing Arsenal have not had. It's great having the flair with Martinelli and Saka and all this. Yeah. Same as we did when we had Sane and when we had Sane and Sterling. It was great sexy football. I want to go back to Sane. We never got a sniff of the Champions League when we had that. because it's too attacking. Pep said it's too individualized. You have to defend as a team. And I think he used the Wolves game last season and Newcastle game. Pep doesn't want a basketball game.
Yeah.
Pep wants total
He wants a chess game.
Football.
Yeah.
But this is where the Doku signing is what you're doing with it then. Because Doku, he's either got to change Doku into that position, or you can't half-ass directness and half-ass controlness.
You know what I would say on the Doku thing? I think that Doku, and it's going to take time like it did with Grealish, but I think some of these type of players, he buys them as like almost like pressure release valves. Like that's what I've seen Grealish become, and that's what Bernardo Silva is. When you're speaking before about what's Bernardo Silva, one of the things he is he's probably the most press resistant player on the planet. Like so. What it means is for City and for our possession style of play and for what happens when teams do try to catch us in a press, those are players that can receive the ball and either beat your press and now we're in space, or can like win a foul, do something that kind of relieves that pressure. And I think that maybe he's thinking Doku might be another one of those as well, like a guy who is not showing it because, like you say, at the moment he's not looking particularly press resistant. Yeah.
But
okay,
at the moment, I have no problem with Doku starting, but he's also that really good option of coming on with 20 minutes to go when the defence is tired and he can just like him against Leipzig. The trouble is, some of our fan base bigged up Doku so much, not because it's Doku, because they've craved about the Sane replacement so damn long. They think they've got the Sane replacement, but they never realised the reason Sane was not in the first team at City in the first place. Because he didn't do the dirty stuff. He didn't track back. And we've already seen that from Doku already.
I just want to add on to something you said about Arsenal. And I think Prems and Gunnar will agree, right? I've been saying the difference between Arsenal last season and this season, like you said, they'll get the 3s and 4-0s and it will look more aesthetically pleasing. But I think the difference between last season and this season, I think Arsenal fans will rather the 1-0 and 2-0s controlling the game other than the frantic football that gets you more goals, but you're more susceptible to the counter. And I think that's what Arsenal are doing this season. They're controlling games from start to finish more. Yes, you're not scoring as much the 3s and 4s, but I think what you said, Martin, spot on. I think that is so encouraging as an Arsenal fan because you're just controlling games now. And I think that's what you need to win a title. In our title winning season, the season before we won the Champions League, we were blitzing teams. But when we actually won the league, we were winning 1-0, 2-1s, last minute goals. That's what champions are made of. I think Martin on that point is spot on.
And Declan Rice is a big part of that.
Let me just jump in quickly.
Can Arsenal get 90 points? That's the question.
Let me quickly just jump in, because I wanted to just touch with Roms because off air he said something about the mentality of Arsenal now. And he was saying coming over the hoodoos of, last season going away to Spurs, beating Spurs, now beating Man City this year and going to grounds that we haven't won at for a long time, Everton this year. Obviously, you're a neutral from the Arsenal, because obviously there's 2 Arsenal, 2 City here. You're the neutral, really, when it comes to looking at both clubs. Yeah, you might have a bit of beef with City because you were going toe-to-toe with them for a while. But when you, as a neutral, when you step back and look at Arsenal and City, do you honestly think we have a better chance of winning the league this season and learning from last season? Or do you think it's just going to be the same old Arsenal?
The thing is with winning a league, a lot of things have to align for you as well. Injuries being the main thing. When we won the league, our 1 to 11, none of them got injured. And even with you lot, I do feel a big reason why you did drop off last season. It is Saliba. I'm not going to say that's the sole reason why you didn't win the league, but it was a big part. Now, I think the difference, like I said, the difference of Arsenal this season to last season, it still is controlling games. But the reason why I still think it will be tough, and Martin and Bish will know this, and I hated this. One thing I realized about this Man City team, Prems, is they like being the hunters, not the hunted. So when we were leading in 18-19, right? We were, I think, 10 points? No, sorry, not 18-19. It was the 18-19 season. We were, I think, 8-9 points ahead of them, and they've clawed it back, and we started to shit ourselves. Not in terms of losses, we started drawing a lot. And then even when they're in pole position and we were chasing them, they just know how to deal with it. So I think City fans are looking at this and they're a bit more relaxed. I do think it is a stronger Arsenal than last season. I'll be honest. I don't want to bash Havertz too much, but I feel if if Arteta just cuts his losses and brings him in as that impact player, as we saw, I think your 1-11, once the Timbers and that come back, I think it will be a much closer title race. And I do think Arsenal are stronger, but City, they won't mind even if you go 6 or 7 points because they've been there, they've done it, and they love to be the chasers. They thrive off this. But in terms of that title race, I think it's going to be tight. And like I said to you, Prems, you look at this calendar year, hadn't won at Everton in ages, you beat them. Hadn't won at Spurs in ages, you beat them. Hadn't beat City in 8 years, you beat them. I just hope we're not next, because even though you've got a draw against us, you ain't won at Anfield in years. And I honestly just hope we're not next. But Arsenal's mentality has grown, and I have to big up
You next. You next, bastard. You next.
I have to big up Arteta on his change as well, because we touched on it. Last season, he was very naive. The fact Doku came on, he's like, I'm bringing on Tomiyasu to combat this. And even the Havertz change. If you notice the Community Shield, right? Arsenal played Havertz false 9, and they were bypassing the midfield. And I said, you know what? Havertz shouldn't start this game because City don't have the personnel in the midfield where you have to bypass. I think if you went midfield for midfield, Arsenal can go toe-to-toe yesterday. But what Arteta does, and you have to big him up for this, he had the tactical nous to do this. He thought, you know what? These are the dying moments. There's 10 to 15 minutes left. Let me put Arteta, let me put Havertz, false 9. And that's kind of where the goal came from. They kind of bypassed the long ball, knocked it down. Martinelli scores. So you have to big up Arteta on his changes yesterday, because this is something Arsenal fans and even rival fans noticed. He would get it wrong. He would get it wrong last season. But in terms of Arsenal being stronger, I think that title race with you lot will be much closer, man. And the mentality is different with this Arsenal team. But City have been it. They're not really going to be fazed by that result yesterday. Yeah, they might be a bit disappointed, but they've been it, man.
Rums, just to if you guys are done on the Arsenal City thing, I don't know if anyone has any last thoughts on it, but I was just going to say, do you put yourselves in that title race? Do you feel like you're in and around there or not? Not quite.
Do you know what? I've said this from the start, right? We will be there and thereabouts with you lot, but I think what we'll have to do, and I don't trust my ownership to do this, if we're in and around you lot and City in January, we have to reinvest again, because we're going to get to Liverpool a bit later, but we still don't have that competent 6. And you saw it. I think we'll be in the race, but you saw it yesterday. And I just think when it's all said and done, Arsenal and City's, forgets 11s, because I can't lie, 11-11, I still think, maybe not City's, but I still think we're as good as Arsenal. If our first 11 are fit, I still think we're as good as Arsenal, right? But you then look at our depth. It's not as strong as the Arsenal and City's, and we'll know titles, you need depth. But not even just depth, you need quality and depth, right? So I just think when it's all said and done, I think we finished 3rd, but I think Arsenal City will have a bit too much. But this is a long season. If we get to January and we're a couple points off the top, and FSG go, you know what? Let me give Klopp more signings. Let's actually strengthen this team. We can go all the way. Because one thing I'll say, we got that core that have been there and done it. You've got Trent. You've got your Alissons. You've got Robbo. You've got Salah. You've got Dijk. We still have that core to do it. But I don't trust my ownership to reinvest in January. And that's why I think we're not going to be there all the way. We're going to be there majority of the way. But I think we'll tell off towards the end. But as it stands, we are in it. You can't say we're not. We're a couple points.
Do you know what? Yeah, it's a long way to go in it. I think after 8-9 games, you can't really say much. I've been quite disappointed with Arsenal, the way we've actually been playing football, but the way we're grinding out results, unbeaten, I can live with that. If we're getting results and we're not playing pretty football, I can live with that. If we're not getting good results and football shit, I can't deal with it. But I think it's well too early to say. But look, I want to move on from this segment now, because it's like 44 minutes in and we basically just touched on Arsenal City. But the one thing that all of us on this panel have in common is we hate Manchester United. And I think we can safely say that. You get me? These man are the most hated team about. But, I'm going to come to you first on this, because, bro, they saved their blushes the other day. McTominay, somebody that they all hate. Harry Maguire got an assist. You get me? Saved the day for these, man. But it's looking like there's a real problem at United now. They've got Amrabat in the team and so on. They've got Haaland. They've got the striker. But Ten Hag, he looks a bit clueless. He doesn't really have a style of play.
Listen, I said from last season, I don't understand why this guy's getting all this loving. I know he won them the Carabao Cup, but ultimately they lost 7-0. They lost 4-0. They lost 6-3. They've like, this guy is always compared to Arteta, and he's coming out with all of these stupid quotes about like era's come to an end, which is unsolicited, unprovoked. Like you're like he doesn't know what he's doing, and I think the thing I'll leave it on. I feel like the players are giving up on him because to see Rashford doing what he's doing, to see Varane always out. Like I know he's injured a lot, but he's just coincidentally always out. Casemiro just dropping off, and some of the players he's brought in still look a bit dusty. I don't get it. I don't get it. This guy's been a manager for 5, 6, 7 years. He's not 40 years old. He's not 25 years old. He's a grown man that should know what he's doing, and he just looks like a rookie. He looks so out of his depth. So listen, I was actually quite happy they won because he stays longer. I think he's absolutely shit. I don't think anything good about him, and I've been saying it last year to DSG. I tried to tell him, every year they're only gonna get worse, man. I just don't see it. I don't see it. But
basically, what Gunnar Lee's saying, it suits too big for him. Basically, that's what Gunnar Lee's saying. But Bish, are you? Do you reckon Ten Hag's job's in danger? Do you reckon he'll go, or do you reckon United will stick this one out?
I think United are in a predicament really because they're just in another cycle of the same thing that they've been doing for the last decade. That club's got deep like wood rot. Do you know what I mean? It's not just like a bit of mold and the paint. Like they've got like in the foundations of the house, they've got mold and rot. Do you know what I mean? And what it means is that every time they bring someone in, they feel positively about it, and they got all these reasons and theories about why they're good or why they're going to be good. And you just slowly watch it disintegrate until they get to the point where they're basically going to have to sack the manager because he's flopping all over the place. But they've also invested in a load of players that are really specific and unique to like that manager's taste or style of play that most of them managers probably wouldn't want. They've got players that have come in that had potential that are now not got no value in the marketplace and aren't performing for United. They've been doing that over and over again for 10 years. Like, it's just the same story that they've been on, but just with different characters. And for me, it's one of my favourite things to watch on TV. It's brilliant. There's nothing better than City being on top of the world and United being stuck in just a perpetual state of shitness. It's amazing. They're going to be shit again this season. They're not going to do nothing. They're not going to get qualified for Europe. And if they sack Ten Hag, they're still going to be shit. And if they keep him, they're going to be shit. So it's happy days.
Do you reckon he'll go by Christmas, or do you reckon they'll stick with him?
I think they'll have to keep him. I think when they got rid of a manager last time in the middle of the season and tried to be clever, it went shit really hit the fan. So I think they'll have to keep him through to the end of the year and just start thinking from now about who they're going to get in and hope that they can pry away someone like a De Zerbi or someone who's actually on another level where you might get someone in that can do a job in spite of all the bullshit that's going on over there. But I think they've got to stick with him. I don't think it makes sense to get rid of him. What are they going to do? Like, who are you going to bring in, and what are they going to do with this team and all the flipping broken pieces? I think unless it gets really bad and he like loses another 4 on the bounce or something, I think they'll just stick with him till the end of the year and then potentially move on going into next season.
Say no more, Martin. Obviously, you're an old dog in the politest way possible, and you've been around for a while. You've seen United high, you've seen City low. What does this do for you when you're seeing United down in the dumps? Because it doesn't really look like there's a way back for this club at the moment. Bish has touched on it. He's lapping it up. Obviously, Gunnar Lee believes that Ten Hag is just going to drive these men even deeper in the floor. Get me, never mind 6 foot. He's saying 12 foot. Where do you stand on this whole United situation? Obviously, I know you're not going to feel sorry for them, but how could it potentially improve?
I mean, I will say I've owed so many receipts from my childhood. Mm-hmm. So many receipts from my childhood. And they're getting it back in spades. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, it's true.
The simple fact is, United, I said something about Ten Hag, which was, people laughed at me. So what I do is I don't just look at a manager, I look what they've done, how they perform in the transfer market. And if you look at his time at Ajax, he never bought anyone. What he had at Ajax was the very famous Ajax Academy. To roll everyone in and bring everyone in. He's never really gone out and had money to buy. And then I thought, right, he's got the United job. Let's see what he does. Because, by the way, if anyone tells you United haven't got money to spend, piss off. They've had more money to spend than we've had. We've spent 1.6 billion or whatever to finish 6. So don't ever say it's your owner's fault. Yeah, it's your owner's fault. You may get pissed on in the middle of a game because your roof's got leaks. But it ain't the manager's fault. It ain't the owner's fault when they're dipping their hands in the pockets. But the simple fact is, Ten Hag went straight into United, and the first thing he did is go straight back to Ajax to get their players. Yeah. That told me something straight away. You have no clue what you're doing in the market. What you're doing is you're going straight to tried and tested. I know what I'm doing. They will know my training. They will know everything. And he's hardly bought anyone outside of his Ajax little.
He's like the Gareth Southgate of club football.
Yeah, who would spend 100 million? And by the way, it was 100 million. Before anyone tells you it was 65 with add-ons. He spent 100 million on Antner. Do me a favor.
Yeah.
Bro, that fucking Onana looks like a fucking show, bro. I can save half of his shots.
Prem's it, they've sat there, they blamed De Gea. De Gea kept them 20 points. I kid you not. Yeah, his distribution was shit, but you got 15, 20 points in the bag because of De Gea. You've now lost that for someone who can kick, but he can't kick, he can't save. He looked half decent in the Champions League final. That's it. You spent God knows what on him. You blamed Harry Maguire. He's not in the team. So then you look for another scapegoat. It's scapegoat FC over there. It's a blame game. And the trouble is they'll get rid of Ten Hag and get who? They have had, go through their managers. They've had managers in their time that you would think, wow, amazing. You know, they've had Mourinho, they've had us, they've had Van Gaal. They've not had shit managers. They're not had they're not, you know, Solskjaer was United legend. They hounded him out the door. And they, you know, what do you expect? A club that are 6 and they call it a crisis. 6 is a crisis. They don't know what a crisis is because they are self-entitled, self-inflicted.
Get to it.
I'm just enjoying every single part of it because, tell you what, they don't know the Ballon half of it. Yeah, and I just piss myself every time I watch United. They sit there and they beat Crystal Palace. Oh, in the League Cup. Great, you beat 3-0. So what you do is, screw that team who's won you. I'm going to change the whole 11 and we'll go and get beat by Palace in the league at the weekend. Great management. Well done.
Right, do you know, I just wanted to ask one thing though. Like, and I mean, I'm not from Manchester, obviously, but don't you feel like it was deserved for you to get the banter you got? I don't know how bad it was because, I mean, respectfully, you were shit.
No. We were shit. We were shit for 20 years.
It's not about the banter. It's what you.
Yeah. So
you man know this yourself from your own interactions with United. It's this.
But nobody expected anything of City, though, innit?
It's this just entire. It's the entitlement. It's what man said. It's the way arrogant. Man United. We deserve. We should always be competing for the title because we're Man United. Like that whole feeling of like
it was like the only genuine deal. He's going, we're Man City when we had Lee Bell and Somerset, and we won League Cups and we won Cup Winners' Cups and we won titles.
Yeah,
we're Man City. No, you know, you resolute yourself as a club by going through the shit, and that's what we did. This phenomenon you just said there about it wasn't deserved because the simple fact is we were still pulling in full stadiums in Division 2.
Yeah,
not being funny. You know, no offense. People call Liverpool fans a cult sometimes. No, City fans were the cult.
Yeah,
as City fans got shit. As City got shitter, we got more popular. We had to build 2 temporary stands to fit more fans in as we got worse. That was the cult. We were the cult in the 90s.
I say that all the time. It's only City fans. I say that the City story is the greatest story in English football history, and there's no other set of fans that can say that that are our age that can say they've experienced being relegated multiple times. Like my first game for City was against Port Vale, and then I've seen City win the Champions League in the flesh there at the final. Like the journey that we've travelled means that for me, as much as we enjoy our success, the reality is you man are Arsenal fans, Liverpool fans, you don't hate City fans like how you hate United fans. There's a culture for how they were, and it's because they've never really experienced the other side of it, and because of that now that's like a toxic like mentality that they can't get past as a club in the rebuilding process. It's like they don't know how to get past that.
I'm going to say something. I'm going to be real, bro. I think a lot of us hate United, because a part of it is jealousy as well, because they were so successful.
That was my point. That was my point. That was right again. Like for me, obviously, I'm not Manchester.
Yeah. It was different.
For me, I'm just looking at it, and again, I can't speak for you guys. I'm never going to do that, but I'm just looking at it, and I'm like, well, they could little bro you because they were the older bros. They could look down on you because, well, you're in the city, you're the neighbors, and you're not even the noisy neighbors at the time. You're in their eyes irrelevant. And then
I don't care what they could do because now we get to give it back to them.
That was fans who didn't know.
My point is, again, I'm only speaking from outside. I'm not from Manchester, so it's difficult for me to understand your point of view. But I'm just looking at it on the optics. Everything that Man United can say to you or have done to you in a negative light, it's probably deserved because you were probably piping up as a Man City fan because you're rival, and they were probably giving it back because, well,
that's your fan. That's not just you not being from Manchester. That's you being an Arsenal fan as well.
I always hear Saeed say like little old City, like that's what I always hear. Little old City.
The problem is with that, it's like I had a mate who's used to give it big time, and I went, just ask me who Dennis Law is. He didn't have a clue because he forgot. The great Dennis Law relegated them at Old Trafford. This is the thing. This is the trouble with a lot of United fans who don't know history. It's like people talk about City having no legends. The great Sir Matt Busby at United was well known at City before even turning up at United stores. This is the problem. Don Revie,
United goes out of business after the Munich air crash if City don't give them players. City, do you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of shit that man don't know.
City having no legends. The late great Don Revie was at City as a player before even turning up at League.
Man like Bert Troutman.
None of it is allowed to be mentioned because City's history gets just piped to the background because of what they do now. They're not looking. This is the problem. Everyone thinks.
Do you know what it is as well, Martin? Do you know what it is as well, Martin? Sorry to interrupt you. Obviously, me being an Arsenal fan from Manchester, I think the way I've seen it as well, United have always been loudmouth, and that's just the truth. And that's rightly so because they have won a lot of stuff and they were the most successful team. But I think because of the rivalry they've had with Liverpool over the years, they always looked at that rivalry with a lot more intense than Manchester City because at the time, obviously, City wasn't really winning anything. That was nonsense
as well, though. That was just because they were beating us. As soon as we started winning and they had to go into work and into school and sit next to City fans, man did not care about that Liverpool game anymore. They didn't want to be us.
I hear what you're saying, but listen,
that was a different level of pain for them.
Go on, bro. Let me land though, because I can honestly say if you put a survey out there, even for man in Manchester, because obviously bear in mind I got a lot of United fans in Manchester. If you ask them who would you rather be in a game, obviously, who's your biggest rival? A lot of them will still say Liverpool, and I think that's just because. I think that's just because growing up, regardless of over the last 10 years, City might have done this and done that, but obviously football didn't start 10 years ago, innit? And obviously the rivalry between Liverpool and Manchester United has been crazy. It's like for me as an Arsenal fan, playing United for me is a bigger game at times than playing Tottenham because I hate United with a passion. We've grown up fighting with them tooth and nail for trophies. You know what I'm saying?
Just to add on to that, and I think you're spot on because even me, like growing up understanding Liverpool and United, the two most successful, but it's just the fact that I hate them. You touched on it, Prem. I hate them so much because of two things. Jealousy and it is respect. I'm going to be honest. I despise them. They're the only thing I really hate in this life, but I have to respect it so much because every year going into school, them lifting up a Premier League each and every year, it was annoying. I wanted that to be the case for my club. It's like, why this team winning? It's not even like teams were chipping in here and there as I was going up. I know Arsenal and United rivaled just a bit before I started to understand football, but it was United, Chelsea here and there, then United again. And it was so annoying. But I quickly just wanted to touch on Ten Hag again. What Gruner was saying. For me, it delayed the inevitable because it was silver lining this. If United win, he stays longer. If they lose, he would have got sacked. And I think it'll be rinse and repeat. A new manager will come in. It'll be all right for a bit. Then they'll get sacked again because you lot know the saying, a fish rots from his head. Until that ownership go, and long may they continue. I think we all agree on that. That club will always be in the ruins. But I just think it delayed the inevitable. Because honestly, if they lost that on Saturday, I think he goes. I know you said, bitch, they wouldn't have sacked him. But I genuinely think they would have sacked him because it would have got even more toxic. That's 7 losses in 11 games. And I was listening to United fan earlier. If you put that into context, last season, they lost, I think it was 12 all year. So to lose 7 in your first 11 games, that, for me, that's poor. But I think he would have gone. And we know if you look at managers that have been sacked, normally it's in or around the international break where it's a bit more calm. You can speak to other managers, but I think he would have been gone if they lost. But now he's won. We all know they're shy, and they're going to come back, and the problems will continue. They're crying about not having all their defense. The defense will come back, and the problems will still persist because they just don't, for me, have good players. But they're in the mud, and if I'm being honest, I think we can all agree. I'm loving this. I'm lapping this up. These are days I wish for all my life.
100.
So don't make it continue.
Oh, look,
Yeah, we can agree on
Man
that.
United, Jeff. Well, I think everyone on here can actually say fuck Man United because we don't like him. You get me? Obviously, there's no United man on here as well, so we don't need to keep it respectful for him. You know what I mean? But obviously, I just want to finally touch on Tottenham before we we wrap it up because I think they've earned some real credit from me, and I actually am surprised as well because I didn't see Tottenham without Harry Kane being in this position going into the international break on top of the league. Martin, impressions on Postecoglou and where you see him potentially taking this Tottenham side?
The initial ones, because it's still early, still 8 games, same way we said it earlier. Positive, he's got Tottenham playing as a team. And I said this, I actually think getting rid of Harry Kane was the best thing they ever did. They got rid of the anchor around the neck that was Harry Kane. And that sounds mad to say that about someone as good as Kane. But the truth is, like Pep said, everyone known them as the Harry Kane team. Because that's what they were. They were this team that had 10 players and then Harry Kane. And they were never a team. Now what they've done is Post's come in and got them playing as a proper team. From what I've read, he's told that bald idiot who owns them, not, don't own them, but chairman. And I will call him an idiot because he was part of the reason we've got these charges, or a very big main reason we've got these charges. But he's told him to stay out of the football. For the first time ever, Tottenham have got a strong manager who isn't going to bend over to Levy. He isn't going to do. Daniel Levy's got to remember he's the chairman. He's not the manager. He's not Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. Now, it's early days because yes, the top of the league. Do I see them there in April, May? No. Do I think they could make top 4? Yeah. Don't think they'll be, because again, it's not just get top. I've said this about Newcastle. They think, it's just money comes in and where you go and you're in a title fight and, you'll get some good results, 100%, and you'll improve. But they've not got quite the depth, the energy just to go on a title race because that comes with experience, the same way Arsenal did from last season. They were really big up from last season's loss. The same way Liverpool and us went at it for year after year after year. It was because, and I put it this way, can Tottenham go 14, 15 games winning streak? No.
Not a chance.
And that's what you need to win a title. So I think they've got enough for top 4. I love the stability they've got. They're playing as a team. But the trouble is with Tottenham is, as every fan is, when you're top, expectation goes flying through the roof.
Can you
when they hit that first, when they hit that first sticky patch? Because I saw it after the 2-2 at your place. You'd have thought they'd won the Premier League. So you're like, no, relax, slow down. They've got to learn it's a game.
I think
what they've got to remember is it's a war, not a battle.
I think
win individual battles, it's who wins the war at the end.
I think as well, just because I got a bounce, but I think for me, I think I said that Spurs were going to have a good season. I remember we did.
You did.
And
100%.
It's not as much of a shock to me, but I do watch Man City. I do watch Spurs now, and I'm a little bit like, I don't think they've been fortunate. I think they've been good, but I do think that they will struggle. They will have a run of games where they struggle, and it's going to be interesting to see how they bounce back. I do think that they will have a few moments where they play top teams, but they don't beat them. And I think the difference between a team like Man City, a team like Liverpool, a team like Arsenal is we're expecting to go to Chelsea away and win. They're hoping. They're like, let's give it our best chance. I'm expecting to go away to Newcastle and put up a good fight and hopefully win. I'm expecting to go to Aston Villa and win. Liverpool aren't like that. Spurs aren't like that. Liverpool are like that. Man City, obviously, you expect to win every game. So there's levels. And I think that's where I think, and again, Martin mentioned earlier about Arsenal, can we get 90 plus points to win the league? I can't see Spurs getting 80 points. I can't see them getting even 70. I can just about see them getting a nice 70 something, but even that's very good for them. So
do you know, just to add on to what you and Martin said, Green, as well. Let's say Spurs get to January, right, and they're within a shout of winning the title. I feel like I feel like their ownership will do the same as ours. You know what? You got this far. You can carry on, and I think that's what Levy will do. So that's another reason, on top of them not handling pressure, that's another reason why I don't think they'll win the league. Because let's be honest, outside of their 11, their depth is shit. Their depth is on the floor. So if they even wanted to win the title, they'll have to reinvest, and Levy just won't do that. So word to what Gunnar said, word to what Martin said. I think I do think they'll get top 4, but 4th is the highest they can achieve, in my opinion. I think
they're a James Maddison injury away from a disaster, man. Trust me, that's what they're on. That's what I honestly think. But obviously, before we wrap it up, obviously, my co-host Bish, you got to say the last word on Spurs before we wrap it up.
Yeah, man. I think what was interesting for me over the weekend was I did a bit of a Google on Postecoglou and looked back on like where did he start out, you know, and the way that he's moved from being like a manager of basically a lower tier team in Australia to like jumping up to the Australian national team, to then go into Greece, to go into Japan and winning stuff, then go in Celtic, and as soon as he lands in Celtic, he's just winning everything. Now, obviously, none of them leagues give you any gauge on the Premier League, so I didn't really have no expectation of him coming in. But now that he's doing it at Tottenham, you do have to say there's clearly something quite special about him, because he's not just got this opportunity given to him on a silver spoon because of how good he was as a player. He's got here because he's overachieved probably pretty much in every role he's ever been in before that, and someone took a gamble on him, and you know, as everyone else has said, he's got them playing really good football and really unified football, and they've got a lot of quality in that team that's been dormant for a few years. Guys like Son, once upon a time, Son was like up there almost with the Salahs, like of just hitting ridiculous amounts of goals, winning games, changing games. So if he can wake some of that back up and get them playing as a team and activate some of these new signings, like you said, your James Maddisons, I think that they can definitely overachieve this year. The title's going to be a push, but I think, as you guys said, 3rd, 4th race is probably going to be the battle for Tottenham this season.
And you know what? Just to touch on that as well, getting 4th in this new climate is a big achievement, because you've got the likes of Newcastle, Villa, Brighton, Chelsea now, they're looking like they're getting to a bit of form. You could even maybe throw Brentford in there. I know that since they've lost Ivan Toney, they're not being the same kind of team. But with Ivan Toney, they were a very effective team. So now the competition's a lot more and there's a lot fiercer. I think top 4, but that's why they've had to introduce, top 5 people now going to the Champions League. I don't know if they have to do a qualifying round to finish 5th or something like that. But it just shows you now the level of what it is in the Premier League. And I think that's another reason why I think the Invincibles is going to be a tough ask as well for anyone. But people, we have come to the end of the show. I just want to say, make sure you smash a like on this video, subscribe if you're new, go and check out all the Mandem and do the same for them. Their links are in the description below. Make sure you click on it and subscribe, totally free of charge. Show Martin some love. First time he's on the channel. Obviously, you already know Bish, co-host. Next week, it's probably going to be him hosting. You know what I mean? Roms, all the time. We've missed you on the channel for a little bit, but it's all love. It's so good to have you on here. But people, peace and love, and we'll see you on the next one.